Or at one of our annual spring meetings. So as usual, I want to say thank you to Garden Spot Village for allowing us to come here and use their facilities. They're wonderful to work with. Up here on our table, we have some donation jars and membership forms, $20 for a year, and you get some awesome newsletters. We also have some volunteer sheets. I know at the last meeting we talked about we could use some volunteers, and people wonder, how can we help? We have lists up here of things that we need help with. So feel free to take one and contact us and come up and see our awesome museum and do some wonderful work and learn some things too. Right now our museum hours are Thursdays and Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We currently have the anniversary, 65th anniversary of the FFA from Garden Spot High School, and it is a very awesome display. You need to come up and see it. And in our West Hall, we have a display of local barns and some stuff interesting with the farms and the barns. Our next meeting, May 16th, make sure you want to be here and come early. We have Jack Brubaker from LNP. He's here going to be talking about his life, local heritage, and the column that he writes that runs on Sunday mornings. So you don't miss that one. The meeting will be different. It's going to be a question and answer session by a monitor. So we're going to ask him questions and he's going to answer them. So we'll start our program. Tonight we have Miss Judy Stavisky. She has studied Amish women all around the county and the country, and she's here to talk about voices of Amish women in Lancaster County. Judy?
Great, thank you very much. First of all, thank you all for coming out tonight. I'm very appreciative. Can you all hear me? It's always a good way to begin. So I'm going to begin tonight by asking how many of you have Amish friends, maybe grew up Amish, or grew up next to Amish, had Amish neighbors, or maybe even old order Mennonite neighbors, just to get a sense. So quite a few of you. Good, so please make sure to correct me if I don't have something completely accurate. I was looking for an encore career. And I had bought a number of books about the Amish. And I noticed that most of them were written, the books that I had purchased, by the same person, a gentleman by the name of Don Crable. And you probably have heard of him. And he is at Elizabethtown College. And he's really an international expert. So I thought, I live just outside of Philadelphia. So I thought, maybe I'll give him a call, send him an email, and see if he'd like a older adult in the class. And he, of course, was delighted. And I was able to take the Amtrak from Philadelphia right to Elizabethtown, and then walked from there. And he was so kind, he actually moved the class a little closer so I wouldn't be walking at night and coming home, which was lovely. And he was writing a book. He's written several books, but his kind of seminal book, his most important book, I think, is called Amish Riddle. And it's about, how come they do this thing but not that thing? Why do they let somebody else drive a car but they don't own a car? And he was updating that book. And he asked, since I was the only one with gray hair in the class, if I would be willing to shop with Amish women and help update his book. I couldn't believe what great luck. So I said, of course. I thought I had, that was a heavenly choice for me. So what I did is we bartered, which was I agreed to take the women on, and it was mostly women, although a couple of men went along, and many children. I agreed to take them on shopping excursions if they would agree to have me gently ask questions about what they were purchasing and about their lives. And this went on for a couple of years. And then Dr. Crable said, you know what? I have too many other things going on. I'm not going to update this book. I said, what am I going to do with all these notes? I've spent at least 100 days meeting these women. I have so many things. He goes, well, try to put it together. So, I I tried to put it together, and then he got a call from the publisher, and they said, I hear you're close to writing a book. It wasn't that close. And that was in November, and they said, I'll tell you what, we'll give you a January deadline. Can you get it done? And nothing like a deadline to inspire you. So that's the genesis of the book. And what I'd like to do tonight is I want to tell you first about, and I'm going to read to you about a shopping excursion, excuse my back, to Costco. Now, Costco, for any of you who have been there, is the perfect grocery store for the Amish. Number one, it has very few selections of things. There are not a lot of brands there, but they have enormous, enormous quantities. I was surprised that Anna permitted both of her girls, 12 and 14, to join us on our trip to Costco. Prior to their maiden voyage, the girls only had been to Miller's Natural Food in Bird in Hand. Anyone knows where that is? It's a large store by Amish standards, and filled with organic products, refrigerated foods, aisles and aisles of herbal remedies and tonics and tinctures. The two Amish sisters asked for permission to go to the ladies' room twice in the first 30 minutes we were there. Her mother was less suspicious than I was, so the first time we stood outside, but the second time, on the second visit, I accompanied the girls into the lavatory on their return trip. And I have to say, I was more than puzzled. I was a little suspicious. Evidently, the Dyson touchless faucet and hand dryer had captured their attention. The girls dashed over to the sink that magically turned on and wriggled their hands underneath it, and then wiped their hands on the apron, and then they went to the noisy dryer. And they were so excited. It's because the faucet and the dryer, meanwhile, they were absolutely soaking wet. They were splattered water everywhere. After a few more rounds of watering their hands and blowing them dry, we rejoined their mother. She was absolutely bewildered. How did the three of us exit a bathroom soaked with water from our elbows to the bottom of our dress hems? The girls were over the moon with their new discovery, though we declined their request to visit the bathroom one more time before we left. I thought it might be interesting for me to share some of the quotes that I picked up from the Amish women that I met with. And it's interesting about perceptions, the perceptions we have of the Amish and the perceptions they have of us. My friend Sadie said this: "Your life is so much harder than ours." Really? With all the choices you have, life is that much more difficult. I'm happy with limited choice because it rules out what we can have and doesn't give us an option for other things. These standards that we set are for our own protection. I asked an Amish grandmother the following: "Are there rules that you follow that are really hard to comply with?" And she answered, "Of course there are, Judy. We're just like other people." An Amish mother described a recent comfort nodding. Anyone know what that is? Yeah. So it's a gathering, generally of women, making quilts that are sent to developing countries. And she said, "Our mouths move as fast as our needles." An Amish mother shared this with me, and she said, you know, it's funny, we've been out of castor oil for several days, and not one of the children has mentioned it. When I took women shopping, they typically felt bad that they weren't paying me, so they offered me, excuse me, homemade pickles and canned peaches and sauerkraut and homemade applesauce and pickles, whatever was plentiful. On one occasion, though, when I got some watercress, the teenager whispered to me and said, "You'll need to wash that watercress very well, because sometimes we find guppies in them." I live a bit outside of Philadelphia, and not so long ago we had a big storm, power outage for 5 days. And I told one of my Amish friends, and she said, "We are so spoiled. In all my life, I can't remember being without heat, a stove, a fridge, or a horse." I had told her that the tree came down and actually came down on both of our cars, so we didn't have any transportation. And a common question asked by strangers to Amish is, do you like being Amish? It's a funny thing. Tourists ask them, "Do you like being Amish?" And they always ask me, "How do you respond to that?" I said, "I don't know." Children, always a joy, whatever culture you're in. I assume that there's some grandparents here. Emma, a 10-year-old, explained the following school activity to me. It was very exciting. They were doing something different in school. "We're going to bring lunch tomorrow that matches the first letter of our name. So Lydia is bringing lemonade. Sarah is bringing sour cream and onion dip. And Samuel, well, he's bringing celery." The children, when they meet somebody outside of the community, really love to write letters. You know, no email, they don't use computers as we do. And so I got a letter from Hannah, age 13. And she said, "Hello from Katie." That's her younger sister. "She's too busy to have time to write to you. And honestly, she doesn't know what to say." A 13-year-old Amish boy with a very keen sense of humor joined his mother and I to go shopping at Costco. This is him talking. "I think the tourists like to see me in my straw hat." He chuckled. "I guess they think I'm pretty cute."
And he probably was.
"Maybe I'll start charging $5 for the pictures they sneak when they think we are not looking." You know, one of the things that really struck me in meeting so many Amish families is that the English, that's what the Amish call non-Amish. Even if you're French, even if you're from Bolivia, you're English. And one of the women said to me, which was really very powerful, she said, "You know, the English think nothing about taking out their cameras and taking pictures of our children." It almost took my breath away. She said, "Imagine if we got out a camera and took pictures of your grandchildren or your children." And I really understood what an ache that is, because there's so many people that come here. I think the tourism industry here is phenomenal. And even though people know they're not supposed to take pictures, they do. And many Amish they're puzzled because if it was reversed, we would all not want people taking pictures of our children. I was very flattered one day. A family of girls told me that I needed to find out what they were wearing the next time I came because they wanted me to wear the same color. And that is, unlike our maybe teenagers who all like to look different, even though they kind of look the same, the Amish often, that is a sense of loyalty and fidelity to one another. So that was a very nice thing that she said to me. But if you notice, many times in large groups, Amish family members will dress alike. First of all, it's easier for mom and dad to keep track. But even the teenage girls, I was with a group of teenage girls who were trying to decide what color they were going to wear to a big gathering. And they all wore a lavender dress. They looked beautiful. There must have been 12 girls in lavender dresses. And the idea, it's almost like a team. You know, they wear the same uniform. But there is this sense of community, always a sense of community. You do what you do, not as an individual, but for the group. Sarah had spied a long, comfortable couch in a discreet Amish used furniture store for her older daughter, Esther. It was $175. Do you have room for this in your car? She said, only half jokingly. This is a good price, and we could use it for Esther. But I said to my friend, she doesn't even have a boyfriend yet. She said, I know, but I want to be ready when she does. I received a note from an 11-year-old Amish boy to whom I had sent a baseball for his birthday. The note read, "Hey, Judy, thanks so much for the gift. Mom said I couldn't use it until I sent you a thank you. Here it is." I was sitting with Frida, an Amish friend who was wearing a white covering, a plain hunter green dress, and a black belt apron. We were enjoying a picnic lunch she had prepared, homemade bread and homegrown tomatoes and green peppers and onions, smoked turkey, popcorn, and a fat raspberry bar. An SUV with a New York City license stopped and asked us, "Have you seen the Amish?" We both smiled and suggested he travel down Bronx Road a bit, and we were sure he would see some Amish there. I had arranged to meet an Amish friend who was visiting her old youth group. You've heard of Rumspringa. Rumspringa is the time when Amish teens have some freedom, and it's so important for them to pick the right group, just as we would like our children to pick the right group of friends. And that group, from that group, they often find someone, a future spouse. But when I picked up this mother, she's probably in her late 40s, early 50s. This was her Rumspringa group. She had known them since she was 16 years old. And she said that, and she stayed connected with them for decades. She explained, "My girls want to know who's dating who, and this is a good place to find out." Here are 2 letters from children of Amish friends that provide an insight into the daily life of the Amish and Amish children. Today is Sunday, so I get a lot of time to write to you. We just read the Bible, and now Mom and Dad are resting. This afternoon, our neighbors are going to come over for dinner. Their boy got married, and we are having pizza and ice cream. Yesterday, we went to help our church ladies in the afternoon, and we blew leaves, and we raked them. It was a very windy day, and the leaves are falling down all the time. Oh well, the sooner they fall, the sooner it'll be over. We're going to eat lunch now, so I'm going to go and help Mom. The other letter from a 14-year-old girl. My life is full of work and fun. Yesterday, I was helping my aunt who had a baby. His name is Amos. He's named after our grandfather. I did their laundry, raked, and mowed most of their lawn. In the afternoon, I folded the wash and put it away. Then I burped Amos. Tomorrow, I'll work for our neighbors. And on Friday, I will work for my aunt again. On Monday, I had vocational class. Today, I will help Mom. On Monday, on the following day, I will help whoever needs help. The baby is growing fast. He already knows what to do when we get ready to go out the door. And he's scribbling on this page. I have to run. I have the laundry to finish. Love, Rachel, and a handprint of baby Amos. So let me take a little break and answer some questions that you might have about the Amish. Yes?
Did you get a ride in any of their buggies?
Did I get to ride? The question is, did I get to ride in any of their buggies? Very interesting. I think one of the things that's really important is that because Amish dress alike doesn't mean they are alike. And I think it's one of the mistakes that the English make. So I have an Amish friend whose son took me on a rip-roaring ride. And it was, they're high. It was hard for me to get up. It was fascinating. And I have other Amish friends that don't want to take me for a ride in case we're in an accident, and are concerned about what would happen then. So, but I have ridden in a buggy. And by the way, Amish children, often the children that I met, and again, I don't want you to think that I met 10,000 Amish. I met about 12 families, so, and from this area. So things are different between different families. But one of the things I noticed when the children came with us, because they are so used to being in a buggy, they often get car sick because the motion, there's something they're not familiar with. So we did a lot of windows open, even in the winter, just to make sure that people were feeling okay. Questions? Oh, sorry. Thank you.
My mother moved to Lancaster County when I had just graduated high school. So I was living in Philadelphia and coming up to visit her.
Wow.
And so this was in the maybe early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And what I noticed about the Amish at that time, and then later, actually, I went into banking and we did some transactions. I did some banking with the Amish people. Well, they came to our bank, but anyway. At that time, they didn't use any phones, no gas-powered anything. And so I went away, I came back, and now I'm retired, and I live in this area, and boy, has things changed. I was really surprised to see Amish people wearing the hats and the whole outfit, popping out the cell phone, and now they, and just today, we were driving down Old Philadelphia Pike, and we see an Amish man using gas-powered mower on his lawn. And it's just, it just seems like, wow, there was a real change in the time that I was away, about 18 years, coming back and seeing all the changes. I was just wondering if you noticed that, and if knowing these people, how it has been for them to decide, how far are they going to go, like on our site. Oh, and the other thing I guess we noticed is that they were using our hospitals, and I think like 30 years ago or 40 years ago, they didn't. I was under the understanding that they had everything was separate. So I never dreamed that when I went to the hospital for some procedure he had that we would see Amish like at the hospital. And I was just wondering, like, sort of what happened?
Yeah.
And how have mistake
Yeah.
or whatever?
Those are very good questions. Could you hear? Over here? Let me repeat it. The general question is that she's been away from this area for a while. 17 years? 18 years. And has noticed many changes in the Amish community, in this community. And one being cell phones, people using the hospital. Let me give you my take on that. From what I understand, the Amish generally try to use some home cures, home treatments, things that we would call complementary medicine first. That typically is the case. But broken bones go to the hospital. There are certain things, cancer goes to the hospital, but it doesn't mean that they go to the hospital first. You know, we have a very different, the English have a very different way of seeking medical care. So that certainly has changed, and I think the hospitals have come to recognize that they can't pay, when they charge the English, they know the English all have, when you're over a certain age, you all have coverage. We have Medicare. That's not something that the Amish have. They could have it, but it's not something that they feel like they should be taking care of their own community. So what has happened is that the hospitals have gotten pretty savvy, and they actually, most of them have a liaison with the Amish and will negotiate prices and, you know, make sure that families can come into rooms. I mean, in the olden days, the hospitals used to be very strict about all kinds of rules that don't even make any sense. So that has changed. The question of changes, it comes back to each church district, each settlement, to review what these changes are. So you might see an Amish person at the Central Market or at Reading Terminal that has a cell phone. That cell phone is for business. And their church leaders have either okayed it, or if the person is using it, has convinced people that he needs it for work. And when you think that somebody is either lives perhaps in this area, Gordonville, and is working at the Central Market or at Reading Terminal, what happens if they need to get in touch with their family, or their family needs to get in touch with him? So there have been allowances made, but not every church district makes the same allowances. So that's why I think there are some people, if you don't see Amish very often, you think, oh, well, this one's doing this and this one's doing that. But what happens is, not every, again, because Amish dress alike, it doesn't mean every church community is alike. And from what I have heard from Amish friends, the cell phone has created much dissension in certain churches because they don't, what kind of cell phone? It's a flip phone? How about an iPhone? iPhone gets you right into the internet. There is a wonderful computer guy that I've met who rejiggers the computers so that people need to use computers at work, but they only have an Excel spreadsheet. They might have QuickBooks, which does payroll, but other things are not available. So it gets complicated. I have a very, very strict Amish friend, but her husband had to learn how to use a keyboard, and he had it at home. I mean, this is such a strict household, and I saw this keyboard, but he had to learn how to use the keyboard to input information that was coming in. So to answer your question, you will see variations, and the Amish, as I have learned from this group of people, is that they try to make decisions in terms of how it's going to affect the community. So you know, certainly having access to the internet is not something that most Amish, they do not want. By the same token, GPS is very helpful. when you don't know where you're going. And I've had several Amish women call me. One is written about in the book. She called me at 10 o'clock at night, and she was just despairing. She realized that church was being held the next day at a place she had never been. So I live, 75 miles away, and she asked for directions to a place that was maybe 2 miles away. But she couldn't find it on the map. And I was the only one she could call at that time of night where the phone would ring in my house. And again, the Amish that I have met in Lancaster County, they have phones, but they have phones outside, rotary phones, outside their house. Why? Any thoughts? Emergency. But why isn't it in the house?
They don't want the teenagers talking on the phone.
Probably. They don't want the teenagers talking on the phone. Anyone else have an idea?
They aren't connected to the world that way.
That's right. And they don't want, I have a friend who said, when I'm peeling potatoes, why should I answer the phone to somebody that's outside? They want to maintain their separateness, and that's a way to do it. Did I answer most of the question? So I would say that each community has to really wrestle with these things, because if the essence is to build your community and make it stronger, which of these things will take you out of the community? There are Amish communities where the children are allowed to ride bicycles, but bicycles take you away from the community. In this area, they have scooters. You can go a couple miles on a scooter. Hard to go 10 miles, though. I guess you could if you were young. I don't know. Other questions? Yes?
It seems to me that Amish men have a lot more freedom than Amish women in terms of dress and what they do. Every time you see Amish women, they have the long dresses and the aprons and the bonnets, but yet the men seem to dress I don't see them in jeans, but much more similar to what the English dress.
Right. So the question is about, it seems that the Amish men have more freedom. Actually, I thought I had brought a pair of pants here. Actually, Amish men pretty much have a uniform as well. These are very typical pants, broad fall pants. Most Amish men wear these. Their wives or older daughters make them. I actually think the opposite. I think that the women have a range of colors they can wear. Amish men are generally in black, maybe a pale shirt, but I think each has their own uniform. So you see the straw hats. They're not all different kinds of straw hats. There are straw hats. There are wool hats. I think there might be a broader range almost with the women, just because they wear different colors. Muted tones, burgundies, forest green, the pastels, not so much, maybe for the children. I have some of the clothes up here if you'd like to see them. Someone else had their hand up. Yes?
An overview of a day of an Amish school teacher.
Okay, I'd love to. The question is, can you give me a sense of a day of an Amish school teacher? So one of the things I learned is that the Amish only go to school till 8th grade. That was news to me. And the Amish school teacher attended an Amish school, but she doesn't have a master's degree in education. She just went to an Amish school, and she's good with children. And generally, the school board, the Amish school board, will find a young woman, generally it's a young woman, to teach the children. So the school day starts. The children either ride their scooters to school or they walk. It's funny, I remember my father always telling me how he walked to school both ways, they're both uphill, in both directions, right? Anyone else have a parent that said that? Well, these children walk to school every day. They bring their lunch, there's no cafeteria, and it's pretty much reading, writing, and arithmetic. I brought some Amish school books here that you can see. It's probably similar to the books maybe your parents or grandparents had. And there's a reason that the Amish go to school till 8th grade, because 9th, 10th, 11th grade, it is not relevant for their children. Their children are being trained to be part of the Amish community. They don't need theater classes, they don't need chemistry. And I have to tell you that the scores, the national scores for Amish children are very similar to rural children in terms of, reading, proficiency, that kind of thing. The one area that sometimes is uneven, because Pennsylvania Dutch is their first language. So many of the children, they start in first grade, no kindergarten or pre-kindergarten. So many Amish children start not knowing English as well as they know Pennsylvania Dutch, so their reading scores are a little bit behind. But that's not always the case. And the school day it's work. It's a lot of reading, reciting, and what's fascinating, if you sit in an Amish classroom, that it's all going on together. It's grades 1 through 8. So the first graders hear what's going on with the third graders, and the 8th graders hear what's going on with the 5th graders, kind of reinforces some of the learning. And there's no razzle-dazzle. There are a couple of the schools that I've been to, they have copy machines that are hooked up to a generator. And the children, midday, they warm up their lunches. There's a stove usually, and not the kind of stove we would have, a coal stove. And the children know, they come in the morning, they open their little lunch pails, and they put things that need to be warmed, it's usually in tin foil, on the stove. And they love, like any other child, they love recess. They have a wonderful recess. The school teacher usually plays with them. It has some organized games. But the best part of the day is at the end of the day, there's a big job chart, and everybody has a job. And as one woman said, there's nothing like giving an Amish girl a spray can and let it rip. So they sweep the floors, they polish things, they make sure the place is tidy. So the children are the janitors, and this is a chore. And again, this is what they're used to. And there's a wonderful job chart that rotates, and everyone gets a turn at doing what's appropriate for them. The little ones don't have to set fire to the trash, but otherwise, they clean bathrooms, they wipe down, they organize things, they put the books away. So it's a regular school day. It's intense. It's a lot of learning, and it's a lot of joy. And I have to tell you, there's very few discipline issues. The children there, and they're called, by the way, scholars, which is a wonderful word. The scholars know that their behavior in school represents their family, and they're very well behaved. Really well behaved. One of the nice things is when you come in, they have a welcome book. And each child, at the beginning of the welcome book, they tell you a little bit about themselves. It's a lovely thing. And you sit in the back of the class, and they always sing a beautiful welcome song in German. It's lovely. And it's completely different than our children or grandchildren, and really lovely to see. Yes, somebody else over here? Yes.
Presenting diversity within
recognized at some point. Can you speak to that?
Genetic
Diversity
diversity.
in the communities.
The Amish, because they're marrying other Amish, have what's called a restricted gene pool. So what's interesting, there is a propensity of some illnesses that are overly seen in the Amish community. There also are some illnesses that are not seen in the Amish community. I don't know if you're aware of this, but there is a wonderful clinic that has just moved to Gordonville. It's called the Clinic for Special Children, and it is a wonderful opportunity for the Amish to see an English doctor, pediatricians, that are attuned to the Amish. I have Amish friends that are reluctant to share with an English doctor any kind of home remedies, and I try to encourage them to let them know what you're taking. This clinic assumes that people are taking home remedies and tries to work with that, not try to change their mind, but try to honor what the Amish are doing. That's about what I know about genetics. But I bet if you're interested, that clinic they're doing amazing research on all kinds, because they see all the children who are disabled, and they have figured out which genes cause which things that are only seen in the Amish community. And they're very well regarded in the Amish community as well. Was there something over there? Yes?
Can you tell us a little bit about the bishops?
The question is about the bishops. Okay, so the Amish have leaders, just like the English have leaders in their church, synagogue, mosque communities. It's a fascinating way that they pick. The bishops also don't go for certain religious training. The bishops are picked by lottery. And the other church leaders are picked by lottery, which means that people kind of nominate. It's a secret process. You nominate someone. Women cannot be the bishop or the deacon or a minister. They are certainly allowed to vote. And they take the names of the three or four that get the highest, that get the highest number, and they put their names in a religious book, and the nominees each take a book, and if they pick the book where it says, basically it's a Pennsylvania Dutch term that basically says you have been selected by God to be our leader. Something I'm doing that loosely, but and that's how it's, because the feeling is they were selected by God. It's not a random event. It was an event that was selected by God, and that is a big obligation. And that's a big obligation, because when you are a minister or the bishop, your whole family, comes under a little more scrutiny. You have to be a little more fastidious about following the rules.
How long do they have to do that? Is there a time period?
The question was how long is the bishop or the deacon or the minister until they're no longer able to do it. So it's a big job.
Lifetime.
Yeah. Yes. 2 questions.
What's their awareness of world current events? And what kind of interesting things have they asked you about your life?
Good question. So 2 questions. The first was, what do they know about current events? And the second was,
They ask you what interesting questions about
what did they ask me about me? Those are good questions. Like I said, every Amish woman, every Amish family is different. I have friends who read the Lancaster paper They know exactly what's going on. I have friends that never read the Lancaster paper. They read the farm news. There are some Amish publications that their children read and they read. So it really varies. I think people who are farmers need to keep track of the price of everything. But surprising to me is that there are more Amish now in this area that are no longer farmers. They've run out of land. As one woman said, the only thing we can't grow is land. And so it really varies. I have a friend who hosts dinners for people from all over the world. She had a group of people from historically black colleges and universities one week. She had a group of people from NASA, from the space agency. She is well-read, knows everything, and then I have friends that their world is very insular, and that's the way they want it. So again, everyone's different. In terms of questions for me, I think the big question is, why are you so interested in us? Not a lot of curiosity about me, my background, because remember, they don't trade in careers. And, so when my background is in public health and philanthropy, so that's, giving away money, which is a great job. But I'd say very few have asked me questions. They do ask me about stereotypes, about misperceptions we have about the Amish. Every woman I know has asked me, and I am going to respond, that tell people when you talk to them there is no Amish mafia, and that there is no breaking away Amish. These are all made up things. Now, they haven't seen them, but they've heard about them, and people that read the paper would know about them as well. Yes?
When you were carrying around the Amish trousers,
Yes.
it looked like they had buttons.
They do have
but
buttons.
the women use pins?
Yes. So the question is that the Amish pants have buttons, but you notice that many of the Amish women do not have buttons on their dresses.
How do they go to the bathroom?
Oh, these buttons come undone. That's a good question. It's a good question. The buttons come undone. So it's in lieu of a zipper. But the women generally do not, I haven't seen any buttons. There are buttons occasionally on the girls' clothes, but not the men's. I mean, the men's have them on their pants, and the men will wear shirts with buttons on them. But I have seen, I've taken a couple of Amish women to the thrift store to buy some kind of everyday shirts for the men, and they often take off the pockets because they think it's too fancy. Yes?
A few miles west of here on 23 is the Parochial Medical Center.
Yes,
And it's a place where it caters to the Amish community.
that's very true. Thank you. The comment was that there is something called the Parochial, which is a funny name, Parochial Medical Center, which is a blend. They have half of the board are Old Order Mennonites and the other half are English. And I have actually worked with them. We put together a orientation for English because the English doctors that were training there had not a clue about the Amish. And there are certain things that a couple of the doctors said that so offended some of the people, not on purpose, so because someone in our world, you look at someone who's pregnant and say, oh, how far along are you? That's not something the Amish typically do with a stranger, and the doctor is a stranger. So yes, the Parochial Medical Center is a wonderful place. They have a couple of sites, and it's a nice place. They have a balance between English doctors and people who are there that can say, you know what, I'll give you an example in our orientation. We said, you can't just start asking someone, you know, what's wrong with them? You have to ask them about their family. You have to tell them what you do. It's a different culture. And to respect that culture, you need to insinuate yourself and not, okay, so what brings you here today? I mean, that's what our doctors do. What brings you here today? So anyway, yes, thank you for that. Yes?
I've noticed at the schools during what appears to be recess, children playing what appears to be baseball or softball. Can you comment on the sports that the children and youths play?
Yes. So the question was, what do children play during recess? They love softball. They play something, I think the older kids play something called corner ball. And they're very similar. Girls like to jump rope. They play tag. And they're like most kids. They enjoy being outside. And they, unlike our kids, the English kids, they go out in the snow. You know, there's never a day that's too cold for an Amish child to be out. And as one of the Amish mothers said, I love for our children to be out in the cold. That's where they should be. They should be outside. They shouldn't be inside. So only when it rains, sometimes they'll stay inside. But generally, and they like to play the games. Again, they're not on screens, so they like to play the kinds of games you probably played when you were younger, and a lot of jump and rope. Yes?
Amish women's clothing during the winter. It looks like I see cotton skirts. Do they wear slips? Do they wear anything more than?
Then the thin, yeah, the dress. I have a kind of a 13-year-old's dress here. The question was, it seems like their dresses are so thin, and do they wear something else in the winter? Some women I have brought long underwear for that they can wear under their dress. The reason that they use a lot of polyester is it doesn't wrinkle. It's one less thing to do. They don't have to iron it. As you know, cotton, 100% cotton, is a wrinkled mess. It's very breathable, but it has to be ironed. Remember, if you have an average of 7 children, and 5 of them are girls, and they wear a different dress every day, so many Amish women that I met are wearing leggings or something underneath it, tights, and you know, polyester can get pretty warm too. Thanks for the question. Yes, anyone else? There was someone over here. Yes?
I assume you've been to the school programs.
I have.
We've been to them. They're very interesting and entertaining.
Yes.
Humorous.
So most schools, if they don't have a new teacher, because it's a big imposition, have something called the program. It's often during Christmas, and it is fabulous. It is a group of skits, jokes. Some of it's making fun of the English, but not, I mean, they're cute things. And what's fascinating about this is that every mom and dad comes and the grandparents, just like we would do with our grandchildren if they're in a play. But they don't dress up. They don't use costumes. They might use some props. But costumes are kind of fake, and the Amish don't believe in pretending you're something you are not. But the programs are wonderful. And we were just talking earlier, somebody over here went to a program and was telling me they put a string across the school, they tape up a big sheet, and the kids are just like our grandchildren. They're nervous, they have butterflies in their stomach, and they've each memorized something. But what's so interesting to me, and I'm sure you noticed this about the program, doesn't have a fancy name, generally the program or the Christmas program, is that the entertainment begins by each child introducing themselves and saying who their parents are. I'm Ruth Ann Stolfus. My father is Jacob Stolfus. My mother is Sadie Stolfus. And if they have 3 children in the school, So cute. So the one goes, "Hi, I'm Benuel. Hi, I'm Sadie. Hi, I'm Ruth Ann." And it's because the family is the anchor. The school is nice, but the family is the anchor, and the parents always need to be acknowledged. In every Amish schoolroom I have been in, I think I've been in 5 or 6 different schools, there is a whole board of who the parents are. So Rachel Esch, parents are Melvin Esch and Jacob Esch. It's really lovely. Very different than an English school. Yes?
We've gone to, the children from one family all have the same color shirts and dresses
Yes.
on.
I
And
do.
I noticed they're looking at the clock that's over the back door when they're reciting, saying their piece.
They are, and the children, you know, just like any children, they practice and practice. They drive their parents crazy where they're practicing and they're practicing. And so you enjoyed, the comment was she noticed that the children all dressed in the same color of one family at the, now, I just want you to know that the children, they're generally not demanding, but the children want a new dress for the program. And that means mom, this is why polyester, that mom has made a new dress, new pants, new shirt for all the children, for the first day of school and for the program. And what's fascinating, it looks exactly the same as their other clothes. But they know it's different. They know it's different. Yes, right in the back.
Do the Amish believe in vaccinations? Or, like, I know that during COVID, it was rumored that they would not accept the COVID vaccination. I was just wondering.
It's a good question. The question is, how do the Amish feel about vaccinations? And it's varied. I have friends that vaccinate their children, and I have friends that do not vaccinate their children. It really depends. I'm sure you know people who got COVID vaccines. Maybe because this is a population over 50, you probably know more people who got vaccines. The Amish did not, in general, I have not met an Amish person that got the COVID vaccine, but they did, for the first time, really in recent Amish history, they did not hold church. Now, they hold church every other week, and they did not hold church in some communities for 3 different sessions, like 6 weeks, so the people wouldn't be so close. I noticed there was a lot of hand gel. Some people wore masks. But to my knowledge, none of the Amish that I knew got the vaccine. Anyone else? Yes.
I just want to ask, what is their Bible, German Bible, and how might that be different than?
New Testament is what they use.
I mean, like a King James, or they have a German Bible?
I don't know. Maybe somebody could help me with that. German?
It's different. I mean, all the translations are different.
Yeah, that's true. Yes.
Do Amish women wear a different colored dress when they're getting married or in a funeral?
Good question. Do Amish women wear a different colored dress for a wedding or a funeral? Amish women do not wear white at their wedding. But what they do is they pick a color, like some of our daughters or granddaughters would do. They pick a color theme, and everyone in the wedding party will wear that. But it's the same dress, the same style dress that they wear otherwise. And funeral, I've only been to a couple of funerals, and I honestly haven't noticed. I mean, I noticed a lot of people in black. Maybe somebody else can help me.
That's what they wear to funerals, they wear black.
They wear black.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No question.
Yeah. Yeah, but no wedding rings. And by the way, the weddings are, a small wedding is kind of 200 or 300 people. Yes, and then you.
All witnessed the chaperone hanging out of this buggy.
At the
When they go
chef.
for a ride on Sunday or
Uh-huh.
whatever it is. At what age are they allowed to start dating or taking somebody out?
My understanding is 16. That is and every 15-year-old Amish child knows exactly when they will be 16. If you say to Samuel, so when are you going to be in Rumspringa? 16. He goes, 3 months, 4 days, 12 hours.
I thought it was 8.
Yes. Yes, sorry.
In the 1940s, I was in 8th grade, and an Amish boy had to repeat the same class because he wasn't old enough to quit school. Does that still happen?
The question was that a Amish boy had to repeat a grade and then went to your school?
I went to the same school, and he went to 8th grade twice.
Right. In 8th grade, there's been actually a Supreme Court ruling on this. In 8th grade, if the child is not yet 15, they must go to vocational school. I read that one of the kids said that they're going to vocational school. That is a once-a-week school, 3-4 hours. Once-a-week school, they learn a lot of German, and then the day they hit 15, that's their last day of school. I haven't heard of people repeating, but I'm sure if somebody's not catching on, they repeat a grade. Does anyone else over here know about repeating grades?
Well, in an early time, in the public school, that was the only option. They were not going to go to high school.
Right, right. And Amish children don't go to high school, so, yes. Is divorce permitted? No, absolutely not. You marry for life. Yes, someone else here? Okay. Yes. Question. Yes.
What explains the changes in the size of Amish families?
What's changed in the sizes? Well, Amish families used to be about, 10 children, 11 children. In Lancaster County, the average number of children is about 7 or 8. I want to close up with a couple of additional quotes. Did I miss any questions? Any other questions? Yes, I'm sorry.
Amish men, when they get married, grow a beard.
True.
Is there any way that the women differentiate married or not married?
The question is, when men get married, they grow a beard. Is there anything that women do that's different?
They don't wear a ring.
They don't wear a ring, no.
There is. But, so when you're single and not married, unless you're in your 30s and perhaps have given up getting married, you go to church and you wear a white cape and apron. When you're married, you don't wear a white cape and apron. That's done.
That's true. Yes.
That's one difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could you repeat that? I didn't.
Okay. Could you repeat that?
When Amish women get married, they get married in a white cape and apron because you wear that from the time, I forget the age they start wearing the cape and apron, maybe 11 or 12.
Yeah.
And they wear that until they get married, and on their wedding day, they'll wear a new cape and apron in white, but that's it. And then they end up getting buried.
Buried in that.
In that white cape and apron.
Yeah.
Because when they die, they are buried in white.
That's true. That's true. Thank you. A letter from a friend during wedding season. Now, wedding season is after the harvest. A lot of it around November, December. Wedding season is much enjoyed, my friend wrote me. We had 10 weddings in 8 days. I know it sounds like a lot, but this is Amish life, and I'm enjoying every minute of this. Hey, Judy, thanks for getting leggings for our girls. No, you don't see them under their dresses because they put their stockings over them. I'd like black or navy, please. I have to go cut a coat for our son who's dating a girl who lives far away, and it gets cold in the buggy. Please bring chicken bones next time you come and let me know how much they cost. To make chicken broth from. A letter from Ruthie. We did not have school today. Yes! It was the day that the teachers meet. Mom has a full list of what we're supposed to get done today. We're going to blow leaves, clean the house, sweep the barn, polish our Sunday shoes, mow the lawn, tidy the house of the widow lady up the street, and help to move items from the freezer down the lane back to the house. Remember, with families of such large quantity, oftentimes there is an extra freezer downstairs, but sometimes it's down the lane. Sometimes it's a mile away. So you really have to be an amazing planner in terms of you can't use a microwave and defrost something. You have to really think about what you're going to be cooking. This winter I had gotten a beret to wear in the winter over my ears. And I went to an Amish home, and the girls said, "Oh, Judy, you look so funny." And they were giggling, and I've known these people for a very long time. I said, "I look funny?" I said, "I have to tell you, here you are. You're wearing a bonnet, a long black apron, your hair's pulled back as tight as it can behind your head." They said, "But this is what we wear, and this is how we look." In terms of stereotypes, I was with an Amish woman in the store, and she was looking for something in specific for her son to give to a girl. They ended up getting married. But she wanted a certain cup holder. And I said, we can ask somebody to help us instead of going up and down each aisle. And I said, let's try to find someone to help us. And she said, "Oh." She said, "Yes, I can be just like the English. I'm just going to ask someone." And I said, it's not an imposition. It's okay to ask someone to help you. And she said, "Okay." She says, "I'm going to be a little like English next time I go in. I'm going to go in and I'm going to ask someone to help me." She never did, but she had me do it. She said, "Judy, why don't you ask them where the things are?" So, any other questions? Thank you so much for coming out this evening. I hope that was helpful. I did write a book about my experiences. You are welcome to take a look at it. I have some clothing. I also have school books. If you're interested in school, I brought some of the school books. They'll look very familiar to you, and they would look familiar maybe to your grandparents. It's very basic, but I think it'll give you a sense of the kinds of things that children learn. Thank you so much for coming.